Hello. Hi. Thank you for clicking on our interview with Hanson. It's a good one. They're really cool guys. If you can, please subscribe. We do a lot of really good interviews. Hopefully they're good. I mean, you'll decide. And we also have a podcast. Link in the description. Watch the interview and let your voice be heard, please, in the comment section. Enjoy.
Yeah,
if you can take anything away from the pre-interview, it's that we have plenty of opinions about everything. Let's talk about carpet. All right. Shag versus industrial.
Yes.
I can tell you we could probably talk the whole interview about that.
Yeah.
Shag gets too dirty. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
You're right, shagging is too dirty.
Shagging is dirty.
That's where we start. It's a Zach Sang show. We got Heather, we got Dan, we have Isaac, Taylor, and Zach Hanson in the studio.
All right.
Just so everyone knows, I'm Isaac Lowe.
Isaac's turning on his radio voice, his love line voice.
Wow.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Much nicer than anything I have.
Doesn't it feel good? It's kind of buttery.
Yeah.
I know.
Smooth.
But it's so buttery that it might be like unrelatable, but then you just build like this whole like vision of what people think you look like.
Yeah.
Should I give a disclaimer that we've been up for like 20 hours or something like that?
Well, you guys are like hardcore on the road. Like this is your touring has not stopped.
It hasn't, yeah. And this whole year has been crazy. I mean, we this year we really made a thing of celebrating being a band for 25 years,
which is a freaking major accomplishment.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah,
like 25 years.
Thank you very much.
Seriously.
It's amazing that we haven't killed each other yet.
Yeah. That's actually, we're
only
celebrating
24.
not having killed each other. But so that tour officially started, in the spring, and then we went, all over the world, and just, this day and age to still be able to go places, and tour and have, fans that are truly engaged, and it's not just a one-off, but have real fans. That's amazing. And so this is a continuation now where we put out a Christmas record, which 20 years ago we made one. We made another one now, and we thought, well, 20 years later, we took a long time. Let's drop that this year. Let's kind of finish off this year with something special. So we're doing a few shows around that.
Finally, it's Christmas.
That's right.
Yes, it is, finally.
Why have you guys been able to last 25 years?
Well, you don't. I'm gonna stay serious because we're gonna go off so easily.
I feel like Isaac questions the entire existence.
Yes, I question everything.
He just loves to ponder things. The thing about it, in truth, is you don't take it. You take it a day at a time, and you're always thinking about the future. I mean, the thing that's funny about this whole year is we've spent so little time sitting around doing remember when? Like, we don't really spend much time reminiscing.
Yeah.
But this year, we're going, you know what? This is a big landmark. It's hard to ever reach this point. And the reason that you have a history is because we're always thinking about the future.
Yeah.
And you're still interested. And I think a lot of, you see this happen with bands that we admire, ones that we think are great, but still can fall in these traps. So you reach a certain point where it's easy to try and flip it on autopilot because you have a catalog or you have an audience or you think and people start getting comfortable putting you in a category like, oh, you're this. And the thing that, like, we've never been interested in that. And we're still hungry, and I think that hunger, that desire for the next thing, that's really, that's what keeps you going. Otherwise, you would just phone it in and do your one little run and just try to make enough money to feel good each year. But this is our passion.
I mean, let's be real. You could milk MMMBop for all it's worth, right? Like, you could really ride that.
I suppose you could.
I mean, milk. I mean, think about it.
I mean,
Do you think it would
hops,
be
a
more
beer.
of a, is it a cow milk? Are we talking about goat milk?
I don't think it would be successful in the end to sit and autopilot things. But artists get complacent. Just like anybody has a career doing something, you find yourself going, hey, cruise control. But we got into this so young that we actually were into it completely for the music because it was too early in life to be in it for the sex and the drugs, right? It wasn't it's like rock and roll. That was it because we were.
People generally frown upon 11-year-olds with a crack habit. It's weird.
Those are not the people I want to hang out with.
Exactly.
So the music is still the fire,
Does anyone not frown upon a crack habit?
Well, if you're James Brown, it's a little bit like, well, he's James Brown. He's a little quirky.
He can do it.
It's like, yay. It's the sex machine. What can you say? No. It's we actually have a side project we've been working on. James Brownie.
Yeah.
It's a funk band who just does funk
Because
covers.
it's kind of like James Brown, but it's not. You know,
It's just a little sweeter.
Brownie,
you know? James Brownie.
We thought about James Brown-ish, but it just didn't
sounded
quite
more
sound.
Brownie flows better.
James Brownie would be a great band.
Yeah, exactly.
But always focused on the next thing. And I think, even this year, like we're doing the celebration, but the thing that we're already thinking about is what's happening next. And we're, haven't announced the context of the tour, but we're going to do another tour next kind of later in the year. And it's all based on this idea of let's do something, like let's push ourselves, let's challenge ourselves. Yeah. And the fact that like the community of fans too, like you guys have fans that follow what you do. You realize that it's like, it's more about bringing people together and giving them a reason to celebrate. Like we were talking about the superhero culture,
Yeah.
It's like you're the excuse for people to connect with each other and celebrate their life and their journey. And, so.
And you guys have done that really well from the very beginning. I mean, you released a fan magazine, right?
Yeah.
Like that's sweet.
Like we wrote, maybe in some cases haven't read that in a while.
Whatever. We've always really, really cared about the relationship that we had with people because we, on some level or another, as a music fan first, any artist starts off as a fan.
Yeah.
Because you kind of like, you connect with something. You're like, wait, this music thing, this song
This makes me feel something.
Yeah, exactly. So you connect on a deep kind of, primordial level, I guess, or something, primordial ooze. I don't know. Anyway, but anyway, and so when you're a fan first, I think we always found ourselves saying to ourselves, well, we need to make sure that we always think about it from the point of view of what would I want if I were
standing in the audience,
in the audience. What would and not just what do I want to do as the band? Because inevitably you're going to favor what you want to do as a band, but you want to make sure that you consider the effect that it has on everybody around you and everybody that's watching, and try and be respectful as much as possible of the experience that you're giving to other people. And our dad used to always say too, especially because we were very young when we started, he used to always say things like, when you meet somebody, remember this may be the only time ever for their entire life and yours that you ever meet them. So remember to take every opportunity that you have to say hello to people with from the point of view of respect and caring for the well-being of that person.
We're talking
as much as
about
you can.
fan magazine. To us, that's not. It's not about milking something. It's sort of the opposite. It's about creating something.
Yeah,
right?
well, and you did that.
It's about this idea that by building deeper, bigger relationships, you create trust where your fans are. They expect things of you. They expect to go on journeys with you. And so the next album, the next project, whatever that thing is that you become interested in, they're willing to give you the benefit of the doubt because you're building not just something based on one song. Oh, I like that song on the radio, but it's sort of like the story behind the song, the person behind the story, the life that inspired.
Well, it's an honest relationship.
Yeah.
It's a depth.
So, though you don't know someone personally, you have a vested interest in seeing them do well and seeing where they would take you next.
And I can sit here and make the argument that you guys laid the groundwork for like what many, many bands then laid out with fan clubs and like the way they interact with their fans.
I do think that serving the people that care the most about what you do and caring the most about them is the ground level.
Yeah.
That's got to be the ground level. At all points, no matter what, if you have people that really care about what you're doing and you are not maybe, shall we say, putting enough emphasis on that, then you're going to have a problem. But if you put enough emphasis on that, it's like, I'll recommend to everybody right now, read a book called Friction, Passion Brands in the Age of Disruption. It's a fantastic book, very 2017, and it just basically talks about how, and I read this a few months ago and thought it was really, really cool and have kind of been evangelizing to people about it. But that basically it talks about that. It basically says, look, serve the audience that you have and strengthen that connection, because the more you do that, the better relationship you have, and in the long run, people... and it has to be honest. By the way, this can't be put on. This
People
is not.
know when things are genuine and when they
Yeah,
aren't.
it has to be
That's
genuine. It has to
stupid.
be real, because otherwise people will see through it.
But it makes sense like any normal relationship that you would have with any individual human, right? The more you give in,
Exactly.
the more the better they receive, the happier they are. They tell their friends that you have this cool friend and whatever.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Was that the whole point of this entire conversation?
I think so.
We could have saved us 20 minutes.
I know.
Just edit this down. Just that.
Just that
Build a
one line.
relationship.
Build a relationship.
Just like you would with your neighbor or your friend. Done.
But it really, I mean, it is fascinating, and you guys really did. Like, as somebody who came right after like your major mainstream reign, and really kind of latched on more to the Jonas Brothers, like that was my brother boy group.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, like, dude.
Does everyone have one?
Well, maybe every generation might. I mean, at this point, maybe.
Yeah,
I know
very
Island Def
possible.
Jam tried a few years ago with this group called Burnham.
Oh, yeah, I remember them.
Yeah. Oh my God. And their sell was that they had you guys at one point. So that's why.
We had Hanson, so
we
this
killed
band.
We Hanson, we almost killed their career. Look what we're going to do to these guys.
Do you think is
Those
that why they
poor
called
guys.
them Burnham, because they burned us?
Burn them down.
Well, to be fair, Burnham was their last name, so they were really they did nothing
They
out of the
used
playbook.
The Hanson model.
So with that in mind, I actually think
you
we
were
have
going
a
towards
lot-
a point.
asking a
You were
question.
going towards a point
Yeah.
before we
Well,
cut you off.
does it kill you to see a group like the Jonas Brothers have a strong fan base, and right, and at one point they are serving their P1s, they are serving their most passionate fans, but then all of a sudden, I mean, they all really kind of take it for granted. They all feel like they're bigger than it, and they go and do their own thing. And you guys have been here 25 years later, serving the same cause that you dedicated yourself to 25 years ago.
Can I take this real quick? Because I do think, for one, I think all respect to the Jonas Brothers, I actually think that we as a band are a lot more similar to a band like HAIM.
Okay.
Even because I think the Jonas Brothers comparison is kind of purely like the icing on the cake, and I think
There's three brothers.
They're three brothers, and we've met them. They're nice guys. I have nothing against them in any way, shape, or form. I wish them, success all day long. But obviously, I think their dynamic seemed to be a little different than ours. And I say that from just the personal interactions that we had with them, although they were very rare. And I think that they were kind of at the tail end of effective communication, maybe. Might have been that.
They seem to not be driven by a naturally formed unit.
Yeah,
Whereas HAIM is genuinely with them it really was like Nick was doing his thing and they decided to kind of form a group.
Exactly.
Because he'd had some success on Broadway. Whereas HAIM is this ecosystem between them. The other thing is,
and
we're
also
not
the
sitting
HAIM
around
girls
going,
are kind of punchy with each other in a way that we are. A little
we're also
bit
not sitting around
sarcastic,
going,
like,
what other youth or brother or sibling like groups? How are they succeeding? How do we compare ourselves? We're comparing ourselves to everyone.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're not sitting. We sit around and write songs and produce songs and make music because we grew up listening to everything from Chuck Berry to Aretha Franklin to Tom Petty to the Beach Boys to U2.
Yeah.
I mean, bands like U2 and Bruce Springsteen and Tom Petty. I mean, those are careers we mark time with. Those are ones that we aspire to, but we don't sit around and go, wow, consciously as professionals in the music business, we see when someone's attempted to kind of take what Hanson impact there has been and sort of use it. I mean, every time a new brother group or a new, young male, whatever comes out, it's always like Hanson. Like there's a Hanson, we'll get, Justin Bieber when he first broke up, it was like, we got so many requests, like give him advice.
And we're like,
what? You mean like
for what?
keep your
Don't
pants
even
on?
know.
I mean, like,
He'd even
Besides
listen to
that, so we're not sitting around going, this was our mark of success. Our mark of success is us. Like we're marking our own. It's sort of like, I love the comment of the great runner Prefontaine, how he would, when he ran, he would just destroy people, right? And he would not just kind of win, he would just win like by a mile. And they'd say, why do you keep running? You already won. He's like, I knew I could run faster. And so I think
like he's not running against himself.
I'm not running against you guys. I'm running against me.
Yeah.
So it's not to say better or worse. It could be way worse or way better. But when we're thinking about our goals and our hopes, and that it's more like what you have to give, and then feeling like you left everything out on the table, like you left it all on the field to give yourself the comparisons. It's like that metaphor of, did we walk in and put everything we could into every day, into every tour, into every album. And then ultimately, like, you see if that stands up to everything else that's out there, you know?
How often do you guys create now? How often are you in the studio working? Or you have the studio at your house, right?
Well, we
have a
downtown space. Yeah,
everything in one soup to nuts spot.
We're at least once a year we're putting out EPs, and that's only just part of what we do. But that's the thing that we're definitely releasing. Songwriting and other things like that, end up in LA and New York doing stuff like that throughout the year. But I think kind of to the
constantly.
Constantly.
For me, so we have this lucky thing of being artists for so long. I mean, I was 6 when we started the band, and so music creativity is sort of one side of that. And then there's like all kinds of other fields that you pursue that sort of fuel that. It's sort of the same way that playing live sort of makes you want to go back into the studio, because you're done with one, you're ready to do another. I mean, all kinds of visual arts, all kinds of, we're writing all the time because that's how you
It's more like an addiction you turn into a job, really.
How is your creative chemistry like evolved over the years? Like how do you all like supply into a record? Like
I mean, has it evolved or devolved? I'm not really sure. I think we've got a lot of things that we're excited about doing, and I think a lot of things that I think we've had a lot to fight for since we were young artists, beginning. I think we felt for a long time, I think rightfully so, felt like, we needed for people to kind of understand where we were coming from as artists. And I think because of starting off as a young band, you kind of have a lot of like, we're only going to prove this through time kind of thing going on. But now that we're into this, 20, 25 years in, I think for all of us, we're just a little bit like, screw it, man. We can do whatever.
It's whatever you want.
Let me say this about our creative process. I think it's as hard as it's ever been.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Writing, working together. But that's partly by
Does that mean
choice.
harder than it's ever been?
Well, no, I think we're all better at it than we ever were, right? That's a funny thing to
we're
say.
We're absolutely the best band we've ever been.
How do you talk about creativity? I mean, the ability to sit down and start with a song idea and turn it into a finished something you're proud of. Like, we're better at that than we've ever been. But we also put ourselves under way more pressure than we ever have. It's not like, when you're writing your first album, it's like, we have, 6 months, a year, 3 years. How long does it take? And when we made our third album, it was like, okay, we're going to sit down for 4 months and do it. Now, many of our projects were like, okay, we're going to record in 3 days. Let's write 5 songs and pick 3 of them.
Do you put yourself in those positions on purpose?
Well,
in part.
I think it has an amazing... it's amazing how stress and difficulty, I think, oftentimes does pull out the strongest, best choices. And you see, there are huge bands that we admire, love. I think about a band like U2, and you just hear from the outside, they're like, they made 17 albums and then they released 1, right? And you go, I don't know if that's how you make the best art. Like, I don't know if that's actually, like, are you really more proud of the 17th album than the first album? Do you even remember what it was like when you made the 4th version of this song? Like when you recorded it an 8th time
we've made like a few different versions of songs before.
You hear a lot of
lost.
artists who, and everybody's got their own process, but it's like, we had 14 producers work on the tracks, and then I came in and I sang vocals. It's like, do you even know what it was like partway through the process?
I think it's the main thing is losing perspective. I mean, there are magical moments, and sometimes songs take a long time. I mean, sometimes they just cook and they just sit in the back of your mind, and then they arrive, and it's 2 years of ponder. I mean, but I think the main point is that it is also not only through deep procrastination and labor of that kind of labor and that kind of like fear of your own shadow that great art is created. I think stepping up to really becoming craftsmen, I mean, we admire the Brill Building writers, and we admire that walked in every day and then came out with You've Lost That Loving Feeling and on Broadway and
I think the key
Natural
is the
Woman,
at-bats, though.
But they also trained themselves. Like we started doing we started doing these songwriting retreats about, more than 10 years ago, almost 15 years ago. And the idea was to bring people together that we wanted, relationships that we had, and also challenge ourselves. And every day for a couple days, it's basically like writing camp. And you pair up with a couple people and you write and record a song every day. And it's everybody from Adam Green, from the Moldy Peaches, to Weird Al, to the Dixie Chicks, to Jason Mraz, to like
Andrew WK.
Andrew WK. I mean, like you have Andrew WK and then like Stephen Trask, who wrote Hedwig and the Angry Inch music, like all in the same room. Like, let's write a song. But here's what you learn: like one, you live up to,
like Ryan Beatty was at the one.
Yeah,
of the last
you
ones,
you live up to like what you ask of yourself to a degree, and like when you sit in a room and you're looking across at somebody you admire, or then you kind of go, dang, I gotta bring.
You gotta step up.
Yeah.
I gotta bring it. And I think as creators, as we go forward, like we've tried to create a model in our continual lives as a band where, if you can, you're always in that feeling of, I'm not afraid of what happens if I made myself do it today. Like, I'm not afraid to do it. And in some cases, like, closing that in might actually, be the right thing to protect, hey, that wasn't the best song of the day. But it also might be that sharing that is part of what builds that fan
But
base.
that's where the fan club and that's where things like that is the right thing, because for us we have a kind of a
Deep
particular
thoughts with Hanson
John
on their
Lennon,
process.
taking a baby, smoking
Thank you.
cigarettes until his voice sounded right. I mean,
Exactly.
Come on, that's not about like giving yourself time. That's about like, hold on, I gotta sound. I just gotta do it.
Yeah, exactly. I got to rasp it up. Oh well, I'm not enough cigarettes in.
You have to have a craft. You have to have a craft sort of focus. I love that show Whose Line Is It Anyway that ran forever. It was so funny.
All improv.
But I love that them talking about how they practiced 8 hours a day to be that spontaneous.
But that's the truth.
Right?
You have
And
to,
so
yeah.
and so you like, it just came right off the cuff. Well, it came right off the cuff because you had actually trained to be right off the cuff. So all this stuff is kind of like that. I think you just get what you put in.
You got to build relationships.
Yeah.
Start at the bottom.
See,
build
you're like condensing it all
Stop
down again.
talking.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, anyway.
Anyway,
So, guys, how's this Christmas album?
you have a Christmas album,
Thank
right?
you guys for keeping on point. We're just
Finally, it's Christmas.
I want to know what goes into creating an original Christmas song, because it's like there's only so much you can sing about, and there's a ton of Christmas
true.
songs.
It's kind of the funny thing, obviously. In one way, writing Christmas music is exactly like writing any other kind of music, right? Because I think the thought is, well, Christmas music, there's only so much to write about. But, I mean, how many love songs can the world really need? But
Great point.
I think the struggle with Christmas, though, is it's really easy to go too far. Right, it's really easy to try and find your own unique way to talk about it.
Too much glitter.
And then, like, it was like, I heard someone singing a song, and it was like, I saw Santa kissing my baby, and I hate him. And I hate Christmas. And you're like, well, I've never heard one like that before, but there's a reason why. But you're just.
So I decided to deck Santa right there.
Bring his
Santa
home.
under the tree.
The idea, I think, building what we were saying, there's a liberation in creating sort of a box around creativity, because you sort of free yourself from 1,000 million possibilities of
Focus.
what songs can be like. You say, hey, this is about Christmas, right? So there are some things that we know that make you feel like this is a Christmas song. One of them is a feeling of nostalgia, like a feeling of reminiscence, because regardless of whether you're religious, Christmas is celebrated by, so many people in our culture, and a lot of it is coming back to grandma's house, eating a food that you're familiar with, going home, sharing memories, and
The
so
weather.
Doing the same, doing
the same thing you've done. Kind of, hey,
Yeah.
everything's different, but nothing's changed.
Yeah.
It's the same. And so, like, that's one thing. You're like, hey, we can pull, like, capturing that feeling. And so for us, like, nostalgia is like the sound of the '60s or the sound of the '70s or the sound, So you go like, like that's a feeling musically, and then you do have like this subject matter of like, hey, cold weather, like the framework
Snow.
of snow.
Reindeer.
And so you have this like little tool chest to pull from. And then honestly, you sort of stop overthinking it, and then you throw yourself into that box.
Okay.
And you throw yourself in. You're like, okay, all those things are what everybody else feels. Now, what do I feel? Like, and so, and hopefully you walk out of a song with that. And that's like the song "Finally It's Christmas," which is the title song. It, that's an example of it. It took us, a couple years to culminate, but it was sort of built on the DNA of all those things. Like it's got a little bit of rock and roll, it's got a little bit of like doo-wop and nostalgia. It's got this theme of part of the story idea of the song was, that you have this, Christmas starts the minute it ends and then continues until you reach it again. It's like the joke of like Santa's workshop, like, all right, we got all of that done. Great job, guys. Now 365 years to the next Christmas, and everybody starts building. And so every time Christmas comes back, it is sort of like we've been waiting for it all year. And so that I kind of got into that idea, and you sort of think it's sort of a facetious comment, but it's true. Like every Christmas finishes, and now it's the wind up to build up to the next time. And so it's something that'll always come back. So
it also feels like everybody's birthday. Let's be honest.
Yeah. It's like we all have. Yeah,
it's always we all have a birthday.
Hey, even if you don't like, even if you don't have a Christian faith, you can thank Jesus. He had one birthday, and everybody else got gifts.
Yeah, exactly.
Truly selfless,
man. Come on,
exactly. Truly selfless.
This is like everybody's best friend.
But then again, gold, frankincense, and myrrh would be pretty rad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Because last time I checked, gold, frankincense, and myrrh are all very valuable.
Yes. When was this album recorded and recorded though?
We recorded it a year ago.
Oh, so you recorded over Christmas last year. I was going to say, how do you get in the Christmas spirit when it's not around?
Yeah, normally you have to make Christmas records in the summer, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to finish them, and all that goes into getting a record done and being ready to come out in October, November. But we really didn't want to have to do that. And we
also
knew that we
tour.
would be celebrating this 25th anniversary, touring all year long. There wasn't going to be time to make a record this year. And so we just planned ahead and made it last year, sort of starting in September, October, and kind of worked on it. And it was much more enjoyable to get to make a Christmas record when it was somewhat cold outside.
Yeah.
Though it was the longest Christmas celebration I've ever been a part of, and I never want to do that.
Like to a point where it was like, no. There is a point where there's too much.
How long did you give yourself to finish it?
We did so. Total between pre-production and writing was about 6 weeks.
Okay, cool.
And so it was, and we reunited with our producer that we worked on our first record with, Mark Hudson, who was a great writer and producer, and that was a reuniting thing.
Yeah. First Christmas record.
Part of
the first Christmas record.
The record
Got
feels
it.
the way it does is because there was a little bit of a family reunion creatively with Mark, and the guy who engineered the whole record, he'd done our third album, so he was a good friend who.
He's also worked with bands like U2.
Yeah,
small band
awesome.
from Dublin.
Little
big deal.
Irish, and so it, you can sense that I think in the sound of the record. Like it wasn't just the theoretical write a record that feels like you're coming home.
But
it really
was
kind
a lot
of
of
was like getting the band back together and telling the stories, and we'd been through a lot with these guys, and so it was a really good feeling.
You guys keep on mentioning U2, and
We have mentioned them a couple times,
why
yeah.
are they considered a rock band and you guys are always get the boy band label?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know. It's a question I have for you.
Yeah.
Because I don't know the answer.
I don't know.
The reality is, so it's
Sexism?
incredibly.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
The
I'm
chick from
serious.
Hanson can't be in a rock.
No. It's about our audience.
No.
Yeah.
It's about our. I mean, in all seriousness,
I think so.
Like we all this commentary about equality, blah blah blah. But if you have an audience full of screaming girls,
You're a boy band.
the music industry says
You're pop.
credibility is questioned. Right? The Beatles, it took them making the record that all the boyfriends bought, Sgt. Pepper's, to get credibility. I mean, in all seriousness. And I'm not even like a get on the pedestal about about that subject, but it's actually, I think it's kind of true.
It is sexist.
And it's
Absolutely.
totally sexist.
Actually.
But it is also, I think, it is the nature of pop music, popular music, causes all of us to question it first. Like if it's really, 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 really popular, you gotta go, well, how credible is it, right? It's easy to the weird documentary about this odd subject matter in this corner of the world is immediately, if you know about it at all, it must be because it's credible, because it's certainly not popular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I also think, we'll just cross our fingers because, I mean, I think time is the thing that kind of, shall we say, heals all wounds in some way or another. I mean, who we are is who we've always been and who we will always be. We have, for all the things that have changed, and there are many things that have, I think we're a lot more consistent than we are not. And I think we've been a band who writes about, working through the rough times. And yes, we do write about love, but actually it's not in the way that people might think. And I think it's, we're just a band of songwriters, a band of guys who really like writing songs and just so happen to, be able to play and sing in a way that we feel good about the results that we're getting. I don't know.
Yeah, the thing about it, our story is ultimately like, for all of the, we kind of talking about this intellectually. You caught a slow sleep, so we're very, very talking very like big picture. But I think we really are confident enough in ourselves to just keep plowing ahead. That stubbornness, no matter what. Because we're really doing it for our own. We're doing it for our own. Like it's kind of turning your addiction into your job. Mm-hmm. Like we would be playing if it was to 20 people on the weekend in our bar band or to 20,000, and like that. I think that's kind of like the guts of the whole thing is like if you would do it, if you would do it in this room when no one listened and get incredible joy out of it, which we do and I do, you don't want to be around me very much if it's been too long without doing something creative, like because there's this.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, there's this fire that you don't know what any other way to put that into the world than to express it through those songs, and so. As far as perception and, U2, example versus what's Hanson perceived as, ultimately, we really believe that if we, if we continue to do what we do, time and your history can only prove what you are.
Yeah, your story is still being written.
Yeah, exactly.
There's another thing, too.
It has to be.
Like just, at this time of year, Christmas, it's a time when everybody allows themselves to, be a little more schmaltzy and watch a little cornier movie. And for some reason,
eat more caramel
there's
corn.
this perception that we are a little more wholesome or a little more something.
It's okay to be like real about your desire to go see your mom.
And it's like, you know what? I think this is bullshit. I think the idea that things are only cool if they're dangerous, like the idea that things are only cool if you wouldn't actually live your lifestyle that way, I think that's crap. Like, it's just not real. And like, who are we? We're guys who drink beer, have our own beer company. We're guys who have our own studio and make music and play in a band. I mean, like, when I go home, I get in my pickup truck and I drive home with my Rottweiler and I sit on my front porch and I shoot guns. Like, it's not like...
You sound hardcore to me.
Dangerous.
I'm like, screw that. So I don't have a drug habit. So I've never had sex with a supermodel. So, like, it's just, life is
I was about to try and
real.
compliment your wife, and then I realized it'd be weird. I was going to help you out there for a second.
My wife is beautiful, and
I was going to try and
she was
never
a
mind.
model, and I just mean, like, it doesn't fall into this, like, stereotypical, like, famous supermodel that, like, she's just, like, an amazing woman that, anyway.
Is there another song that you wish the majority of society defined you guys with rather than MMMBop?
I mean,
I don't think that would fix, like, stereotyping, right? If it was a different song. It would be another, like, stupid form of stereotyping.
Yeah, but songs like Think About Something and those other bigger songs you've had that weren't as big as MMMBop, obviously, are phenomenal songs. Sure. But they just don't get the millions of views and listens that a lot of other guys like you would get.
But also,
I would say that a band that's this many years in, like, if you intellectually think about it, it would probably make some conversations easier to have to break at 20 or whatever would simplify certain dynamics when you talk about a band, like, because you don't change as much as you do when you show up at 14, the shift you're going to make is so dramatic between that and the next.
Yeah.
So I think in some ways maybe a really long career might have some simplicity to starting at 22 or 24. Mm-hmm. But I will say this. The thing that's funny about that, I think about our conversation last night about how Flash could time travel. He went to fix the death of his mother, and it turned out that he actually ruined the entire world by saving his mother's life. The funny thing about rehashing your history is
he's talking about Flash the superhero, and
how time travel is like this concept of fixing or changing history. You always think, hey, if I could. The funny thing about ever going down that road is that assumes that all these other things would stay the same. All these other things would happen. And what's crazy is we have had 25 years making music. And you know what? We don't have any like epic, horrific life or business scandals because we somehow survived to a degree that we've made just enough mistakes and had just enough burdens and struggles that we are still intact and we actually are still doing what we love. And so I think if part of our story is it starts with MMMBop and it leads us 25 years in doing what we're doing, I would kind of be like, keep your head down and don't ask to get hit. Like don't dare fate to be like, oh really, you wanted to do it.
I think MMMBop has actually been amazingly powerful for us and our fans because I don't think we would be as strong a unit if we didn't have such a song that was so genuine and real yet completely misunderstood. Yeah. Like MMMBop is about passage of time, right? Mm-hmm. The phrase MMMBop actually represents that in the song, but it's a song that is like, it says few things will last. You have to hold on to what matters because
and
in
you
an
kind of have to
MMMBop,
fight for them.
They'll be gone, right?
Well,
and
the
so when you look at our
backstory.
fan base, when you look at our band, we understood from the moment we burst onto the scene that very few people would really understand who we are. And it's come true. And every year, every time somebody misunderstands you, the fans who got it go, I'm in the right group because I get it. Like
There he
we
goes
get
again
it.
with that
We
S
are a
word.
unit. And this song is made real over and over and over again by the fact that whether you're successful or not, just most things in life come and go. And so when somebody tattoos a Hanson lyric on their arm or comes to their 50th show or their 150th show or brings now their daughter or their brother or their husband or their wife, whatever it is, like suddenly MMMBop is made real over and over and over again.
That's beautiful. Yep. And it's really well said. I know what motivates you making music today. I know why you do it, but is there a secret hope that you're selling records the way you used to sell records? Because your story is still being written.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? You have yet to really be defined.
I think there's a secret hope that
anybody sells records.
I mean, no, but to be honest, like on a completely non-Hanson level,
let's just say this. MMMBop was number one in 27
Dude, you
countries
sold 16 million records.
So do you want to be number one in 27 countries at the same time?
Sure.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. That sounds great. Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
If that happens in the process, that doesn't suck.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's more about what gets you there. You know, what's the DNA that gets you? Because if you looked at, it'd be like asking us when we had sold like 3,000 copies of our local thing, we would have been proud and talking about how we got to where we were at that time in 1994. Right. But it's like, are you really proud of this, or do you wish you were selling 1 million records? Like, of course, I'm selling 1 million records, great. But still, the thing that makes you who you are, doing what you're doing, is the thing that allows you to stand there and fight another day, right? Allows you the chance to write the next or to fight for the next, right? Because without that, it's like, where's the code? Like, what do you fall back on? Like, what's the track that gets you from here to here? And the fact that ultimately you are, you're a craftsman. Like like there's a trade.
Well,
right?
and on a big picture level too. I mean, I am, back to the kind of joking comment about hoping that people sell records. I mean, I am actually really concerned about the future of the music business because I have a lot of friends who are fantastically talented musicians all across the country, and in particular in places like Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we grew up, who really can't actually sell a record. No one will buy it.
Can't make a living.
They can't. Like, we came up at a time when you could sell like 10 or 15 records at a gig, and I mean, you'd make like 100 or 150 bucks. I mean, that's a big deal. Yeah. Or maybe more than that. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, these days, it is impossible.
Well, now you have to stream,
sell records locally. They can't do it.
Well, because they stream. And
exactly. Yeah. And it takes 4 million streams a month to make
That's
minimum
where I'm getting into
wage.
rivets.
Minimum wage.
Hanson rivets.
So anyway, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. But it is the backdrop of what I am concerned about for the future of music as a whole, and what I hope, because I think that there's a real prosperous future both for the fans and for the bands in the future. But I think it's going to be complicated.
But it really disheartens me because I thought that like maybe over the last decade, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I thought there was a shift, right? I think Macklemore and Ryan Lewis maybe kind of start to like ignite something.
There's something.
Yeah.
Well, until artists are born. I mean, Macklemore is actually, and Ryan Lewis is a great example. They really did like that was like whoa, and even guys like Chance the Rapper. But Chance is, unfortunately, I think, is almost a little bit misguided in the fact that he thinks he's being like a liberator by being the streaming guy. But what he's really saying is, hey, generation, and I think he's great musically. Hey, generation that's never grown up with albums, never grown up with streaming is the only way. And this would be the rewind to not get into a rant about just sounding like we're complaining about stuff. It's the question is really, do creators begin to say this is how it should be done, not watch commodity controlling bodies use the creators? And that's what technology companies, Apple has used music to sell iPods and iPhones. That they've used, radio stations unfortunately have used music to sell ads for generations. I mean, it's in creators, like you guys know, like your audience is on like 10 different platforms probably
at all times,
connecting, thinking, sharing, buying, tweeting, and so brand is really the only thing that stands in the end. Like, do I trust that you're going to give me a good idea, or going to tell me about a cool movie, or going to and so the creators that have that, like, we've got to kind of grow a pair a little bit and sort of work together to say this is how it should work.
The other thing too is back to the MMMBop thing. I mean, I think for us, the greatest thing about being misunderstood when you start is it makes you fight that much harder for the thing that you are and the thing that you believe in, and also the backdrop of being quote unquote understood or not. The song MMMBop was about being misunderstood. The song MMMBop was about trying to figure out where you fit in the world, and it actually makes a ton of sense, given the context now. And I actually think, I don't think we would have started the label and done the things we've done for the last 15 years were it not for some of those challenges. In fact, actually, I'm certain we wouldn't have, because it would have been a completely different world. So.
Hanson.
I have two quick things. The first
like
one,
a water hose to the face.
Speaking of MMMBop, how many times do you think you've played that over your career?
Less than you'd think, because I think in the end, we're probably at 4,000 concerts total. I mean, tops. So, a few thousand times.
And the last one is, why don't you think you get enough attention for what you do? Because for me personally, if it wasn't for my friend Maya, who is a Hanson super fan and played in her car while we were on a road trip a few years ago, I probably wouldn't know that you guys still were making all this music.
Sure.
Yeah,
but we listened to it for hours, and I was like, oh, this is great.
I think that's sort of like asking, why don't we have flying cars? Who the knows?
There he goes again.
Fair enough.
That's a great
answer.
I'm going to say a slightly more constructive thing, which is,
please don't drop any S or F bombs.
I'll stick with that, and we'll build on Zach's beautiful commentary. Which is, I think the thing to keep in mind is the way that you know about Hanson previously is not as a fan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I
knew you guys, the
like
guys.
Hanson, like McDonald's fries are the best fries.
Yes.
Right? So
whether you eat them or not, that's
so in a
just
lot
the
of
thing.
ways, the comparison to I know MMMBop and then I get to know thinking about something is not really equal, because you're comparing like a pop culture awareness, which that song reached such a stratosphere that it hit people in a way that was like, Taco Bell.
Yeah. It shaped culture.
And so the fan, if you actually compare the percentage of people that bought music and that came to shows, and that for instance, in the year 2000, on our second record, and the record that our label essentially bailed because it was the new label and they didn't know what to do with it, we're selling more tickets today than on that tour.
Really?
3 years after MMMBop.
Yeah.
And so
wow,
we sell more tickets
I think the thing, and this year's
we just
tour,
did all year
and so
long.
and so the thing that
why was that?
And that's where the thing about just bad management of them and bad marketing of a label that didn't know.
I mean, that's really surprising.
But the thing is, but that's a good thing for us from the point of view of like we've maintained an incredibly strong fan base all over the world, which is crazy. But when you think about what we're doing, like we have taken on, and this is where a lot of, maybe this brings it full circle, for the artists of the future, you cannot base what you're going to do based on the guy that knew about passively and then suddenly gets a new perspective passively 15 years later. You can hope to connect with you and hope that you're going to, become a part of that fan group. But the real hard is, why am I doing it? And then,
Who am I?
And then how have I fostered the connections with those that were really made? And then build that and build that and build that, and then keep giving yourself a chance to walk up to the plate and swing big. And then hope that you hit bigger and bigger audiences and grow things, but realize that you can't chase the passive perception. You have to chase the thing that you can build on and make it great every day.
And that connects our entire conversation.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Should we say it together? You gotta build relationships. Love it.
Finally, it's Christmas. It's Hanson's second Christmas album.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Last question.
No, I'm just saying, if anyone's like me and didn't know, like, go back and listen to the songs on YouTube with the most views. Like, they are so much better than MMMBop. They really are.
Thank you.
Well, and I'll bring it full circle and full on plug. You should buy the single that we put out this year on you should get the greatest hits record. If you're curious, buy the Middle of Everywhere deal. It's 25 songs and has one new song on it. And that first song is called I Was Born. It's like, if you could sum up everything we keep saying, that song just like
sums it up in
says
3
it.
minutes.
And it's open up the box.
But you got to go to Hanson.com, right?
Yeah. Hanson.net.
.net.
Yeah, well,
.net.
it's also on iTunes.
Okay, got it.
And
But
Boom.
some songs from the greatest hits is streaming, right?
Yeah.
Not all.
Mm-hmm.
not everything. Well, that's some
Couple
of that is
songs.
label related.
Yes. Yes.
Previous label.
Understood.
It's okay. We'll own it all in the end. Don't
Yes.
There you go.
But yes, I mean,
beautiful.
you can find it on Spotify. You can find it other places. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. Open up, come, circle back and discover what we've been doing.
Hanson.net. Thank you guys so much for taking the time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Hanson, everybody. I really hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you did, please subscribe and also check out our podcast. There's a link in the description, and also comment and like and do things. Other interviews are on the screen somewhere, so click them. Thanks for watching.